He was just a tired single father walking his son home when a woman came running out of the darkness, breathless, terrified, and desperate to survive. In one split second, he had a choice: to look away or to step in. He chose courage, not knowing that this moment would change everything. That night, he didn't just stop a nightmare, he saved a life. Months later, when that same woman returned to his door, she didn't come to say thank you. She came with something far more powerful, a proposal that would heal broken hearts, create a family, and prove that one act of kindness can rewrite destiny forever.
The night she burst into his life began with the sound of frantic footsteps on wet pavement and a child crying in the dark. One second, he was just another exhausted single father trying to get home after a long shift, and the next second, fate grabbed him by the collar and refused to let go. A woman came running out of the shadows, breath torn from her chest, eyes wide with terror, her coat half torn as if she had been dragged through fear itself. Behind her, something unseen but dangerous pressed closer. In that instant, before logic or fear could speak, he made a choice that would rewrite both of their lives forever. Before the story continues, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel if you believe in kindness and second chances, because sometimes one brave moment can change everything. His name was Daniel Reed, a 36-year-old warehouse supervisor and father to a 6-year-old boy named Noah. Life had not been kind to him, but it had made him strong in quiet ways. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving him to navigate grief, bills, and bedtime stories all at once. He worked nights, packed lunches in the early morning, and learned how to braid hair for school plays and parent-teacher meetings. He had grown used to being invisible to the world, just another tired man carrying groceries and regrets, his heart permanently bruised but still beating. That night, rain soaked through his jacket as he hurried Noah along the dimly lit street toward their apartment. The city was restless, humming with distant sirens and flickering streetlights. Daniel's mind was on rent, on the broken heater at home, on how to stretch one paycheck across too many needs. He almost missed the sound at first, the uneven footsteps, the desperate breathing. But when Noah tightened his small hand around Daniel's fingers and looked up with fear, Daniel's instinct snapped awake. The woman stumbled into the circle of light beneath a street lamp. She was in her late 20s, her hair tangled and damp, her face pale and streaked with rain and tears. Her eyes locked on to Daniel, not with hope at first, but with sheer survival. Daniel saw bruises forming along her wrist, saw the panic that comes from knowing someone wants to take your freedom away. He did not know her name then, or her story, but he knew danger when he saw it. Without stopping to think, Daniel stepped forward, pulling Noah behind him, placing his own body between the woman and whatever chased her. His heart pounded hard enough to hurt, but he stood his ground. In the distance, a man's silhouette slowed, hesitated, and melted back into the darkness when he realized the woman was no longer alone. Fear is a powerful thing, but witnesses can be stronger. After a few tense seconds, the street fell silent, except for the rain. The woman collapsed to her knees, shaking, the strength draining out of her all at once. Daniel helped her up, guiding her toward the nearest open store, where lights and people meant safety. He called the authorities, waited until they arrived, and made sure she was not left alone. Noah watched quietly, his young face absorbing a lesson about courage that would shape him for years to come. When it was over, Daniel thought that would be the end of it, a frightening moment, a good deed done, then back to ordinary life. The woman thanked him through trembling breaths, her gratitude heavy and sincere, and then she was gone into the back of a police car, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes still haunted but alive. Daniel went home soaked and shaken, holding Noah a little tighter that night as they slept. Days turned into weeks. Life returned to its usual rhythm of work, school drop-offs, and quiet dinners. Yet Daniel found himself thinking about that night more than he expected, not in a heroic way, but in a wondering way. He wondered if the woman was safe now, if she slept without fear, if she remembered the stranger who stood in front of her without hesitation. He did not expect answers. Then, one afternoon, a knock came at his apartment door. When Daniel opened it, he almost did not recognize her at first. She stood straighter now, her hair neatly pulled back, her clothes simple but clean, but her eyes were the same, deep and expressive, carrying both gratitude and pain. She held a small envelope in her hands, fingers trembling slightly. This time there was no rain, no darkness, no danger lurking behind her, only nervous anticipation. Her name was Emily Carter. She explained through careful words and pauses how that night had changed everything. She had been targeted by someone she trusted, someone who thought they could control her life. Daniel's intervention had given her the chance to escape, to seek help, to rebuild. She had spent weeks in counseling, leaning on friends she had been too afraid to reach out to before. And through it all, one thought kept returning to her, the image of a man who put himself in harm's way simply because it was the right thing to do. Emily did not come with romance in her eyes or expectations. She came with gratitude and a need for closure. She wanted to thank Daniel properly, to let him know that his bravery mattered. Daniel listened quietly, uncomfortable with praise, but moved by her sincerity. Noah peeked around the corner, curious, and Emily smiled at him with a softness that made Daniel's chest ache. Over the following months, their lives began to intersect in small, unplanned ways. Emily volunteered at a local community center near Noah's school. Daniel ran into her at the grocery store, at the park, at school events. Each meeting felt natural, unforced, as if the universe was gently nudging them closer. They spoke about ordinary things, about work, about healing, about the strange ways life breaks you and then offers unexpected repairs.
Emily learned about Daniel's wife, about the loneliness he carried like a second skin. Daniel learned about Emily's nightmares, about how trust once shattered is slow to rebuild. There was no rush, no dramatic declarations, just two wounded people finding comfort in shared understanding. Noah grew fond of her, drawn to her kindness and the way she listened to his endless stories with genuine interest. Still, Daniel resisted the idea of anything more. His heart had been broken once, and the responsibility of being both parents to Noah weighed heavily on every decision. He feared letting someone new in, feared the possibility of loss all over again. Emily sensed this and never pushed. She simply stayed, steady and patient, proving through actions rather than words that she was not there to take, but to give. One evening, after a particularly hard day at work, Daniel found Emily waiting on the steps outside his apartment building. She had brought homemade food, a small gesture that felt enormous to a man used to eating alone after Noah fell asleep. They sat together, the city lights glowing softly around them, sharing silence that felt comfortable instead of awkward. Something shifted that night, something gentle but undeniable. As seasons changed, so did their bond. Laughter returned to Daniel's home, tentative at first, then fuller. Emily helped Noah with homework, attended his school performances, and celebrated his small victories as if they were her own. Daniel watched the two of them together and felt something he thought he had lost forever: hope. But life does not allow happiness without testing it. When Emily received an opportunity to relocate for a job that aligned with her long-delayed dreams, fear resurfaced. She was torn between moving forward professionally and staying rooted in the life she had begun to build with Daniel and Noah. Daniel, true to his nature, encouraged her to choose what was best for her, even if it meant losing her presence in their lives. Inside, it nearly broke him. Emily left for a short time, just enough for absence to clarify what mattered most. Distance sharpened her understanding of what Daniel had given her that night on the street and every day since. He had not just saved her life, he had shown her the kind of love that expects nothing in return. And she realized she did not want a future where he and Noah were missing. She came back on a bright autumn afternoon, carrying more certainty than fear. Daniel saw her approaching from the window, his heart racing with emotions he struggled to name.
Noah ran to her first, wrapping his arms around her legs, anchoring the moment in pure joy. Emily looked at Daniel then, really looked at him, and everything she had rehearsed fell away. She did not need perfect words, she needed honesty. She explained how that night had been the worst moment of her life, and how he had turned it into the beginning of something beautiful. She spoke of how she had grown stronger, braver, and more hopeful because someone believed her life was worth protecting. And then, with a quiet courage that mirrored his own from that rainy night, she made a proposal that stunned him. Emily asked Daniel to build a life with her, not out of debt or obligation, but out of love, respect, and gratitude. She asked to be part of Noah's world officially, to stand beside Daniel not as someone rescued, but as someone choosing him every day. The simplicity of it, the sincerity, overwhelmed him. Daniel felt tears he had not allowed himself in years. He thought of the fear that had ruled his life since his wife's death, the walls he had built to survive, and he thought of the moment he stepped forward into danger without hesitation. Perhaps courage had always been part of him, waiting for the right reason to emerge. He accepted her proposal, not as a grand romantic gesture, but as a promise to keep choosing love, even when it was terrifying. Their life together was not perfect. There were challenges, arguments, and moments of doubt, but there was also warmth, partnership, and healing. Emily did not replace what Daniel had lost. She honored it while helping him move forward. Noah flourished in the presence of two adults who loved him deeply and showed him what resilience looked like. Years later, Daniel would often think back to that rainy night, to how close he came to walking past, to staying invisible. He realized that sometimes the smallest decisions carry the greatest weight: a step forward instead of back, a hand offered instead of withdrawn, a heart opened instead of closed. If this story is touching your heart, please take a moment now to like, share, and engage with this video, because stories like this live on through the people who feel them. Before we reach the end, I want to ask you something special. Please comment below and tell us if you believe one act of courage can change an entire life, because your words matter more than you know. Daniel never thought of himself as a hero. He was just a single dad trying to get his son home safely. But to Emily, and eventually to himself, he became proof that kindness still exists in a world that often feels cruel. And Emily was no longer just the woman he helped escape danger. She was the woman who chose him, who saw his quiet strength and built a future from it. Their story did not begin with romance or promises. It began with fear, rain, and a choice. And it ended with a proposal born not from desperation, but from gratitude and love. Sometimes the most extraordinary love stories start in the darkest moments, waiting for someone brave enough to step into the light.